Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Lisa Elvin Stoltari, and I'm a genealogist and a passionate traveler. Over the last several years, actually since 2021, I've been featuring these filles du roi and trying to get to know their stories a little bit better. They truly are amazing women, and a lot of times their names are forgotten, and I wanted to make sure to honor them because they truly were saviors in many respects of France, of New France, and of ultimately Quebec, and their branches would extend into North America. So we are grateful to them. So before I begin telling the story of yet another Fille du Roi, this time episode 322, I want to show you ways you can support the channel. The first three keep you in the know. So subscribe, that helps the algorithms. And then we have the like, which helps spread the word about the channel itself or the episode itself, and then notify, which just lets you know when I post new content. The next three are ways that help the channel grow, and we have a new thing with YouTube, which is memberships, our memberships. So they start at 99 cents, $4.99, $9.99, and $24.99, and it's per month, and it's cancelable at any time. But it just gives you kind of an insight view of it all, and also all of the people who are members get access to all the new episodes as soon as I post them. They don't have to wait until the particular day that it airs. They get when I post an entire month ahead of time. So. And I'm getting ready to do July 2025 right now. So they will soon have access to all of that. And also we also have a super thanks, which means that you get to have on an episode, you click on it, and it's kind of like a little tip for me, and I giggle each time. So have a look at that. And also, we also have my PayPal button on my Have Roots Will Travel website. So check that out. And let's get on with the show. Let's have a look at today's Filles du Roi, episode 322, Louise, Senecal. She comes to us from a viewer request. I did not have her in my file, so it was a pleasure to get to know Louise. Let's get to know her a little bit better. Now, Louise was born in 1637 in Rouen, France. Her parents were Pierre Senecal and Françoise Campion. You can see that the region is Normandy, and the département or county, if you will, is Seine-Maritime. Now, the church that she would have been baptized in is a church, Église Saint-Éloi. It was named after Saint Eligius, the patron saint of metal workers. And this church really reflected the artisan roots of this particular parish. Each parish in Rouen would have had kind of a reflection of its inhabitants, and that certainly was the case with Saint Éloi. Now, the church dates from the 13th century, and like many in France, endured the damage through the French Revolution, had a period of time in which it served even secular functions like storage. It has remained a symbol of the local identity and faith of its people. Now, Rouen is obviously the historic capital of Normandy and one of France's most storied city. It started off during Roman times and quickly became a major urban center in Gaul, second only to Lyon. Its location on the Seine made it an essential inland port, a position it still holds today. By the Middle Ages, Rouen rose to prominence as the capital of the Duchy of Normandy. It was here that Viking chieftain Rollo established his rule, and from Rouen, the Normans would later launch the conquest of England under William the Conqueror. Rouen is probably best known, or one of the reasons it's well known, is where Joan of Arc was imprisoned, tried, and ultimately burned at the stake in 1431. Her memory lingers in the Place du Vieux Marché, now home to a modern church in her honor. And of course, there's the Cathédrale de Notre-Dame that is part of Rouen, and Claude Monet himself painted that cathedral over 30 times in different lights. And Rouen has been a center for art and printing and religion, just so many things. During World War II, Allied bombing heavily damaged the city, but Rouen rose from those ashes again and again and again, proving how strong it really was. So if you can claim this city as one of your ancestors, you truly come from extremely strong stock. Let's look at her voyage to New France. Louise would embark on her voyage to New France as a fille du roi aboard the Le Saint Louis de Dieppe on September 25th, 1667. This is after her father had passed away, and she brought with her a dowry worth £200. The groom that she would select and who selected her, his name Pierre Guilbault, and he was born in 1643 in La Rochelle, France. His parents were François Guilbault and Marie Pignon. Now you can see that La Rochelle is part of the Nouvelle-Aquitaine region. You can see that on the upper left of your screen. And on next to it, we have the département or county that he was from. This is Charente-Maritime. Now, the church that he belonged to was Saint Barthélemy, and Saint Barthélemy was part of a real history in terms of the city. It was built in the 12th century and is an important site for many, many ceremonies, including the annual election of the mayor. And during the religious conflicts, the church was used by both Catholics and Protestants before being mostly destroyed by Huguenots who used its stones to strengthen the city's defense. Can you imagine? Today, only the Gothic bell tower remains, and it stands as a symbol of that, incredible endurance that they have. Now, La Rochelle is a beautiful port city on France's Atlantic coast with roots going back to the Roman era. It became a major trading center in the 12th century, and it was famous for its wine and salt exports, and was one of the first French cities to be granted a communal charter, allowing it to govern itself with a mayor and elected officials. In the 16th century, La Rochelle became a stronghold for Protestant Huguenots during the religious wars that divided France. And the city's independence and wealth made it a target for the French monarchy, leading to famous sieges, especially the Great Siege of 1627 and 1628. The siege meant that they were literally making the inhabitants unable to leave. So they were captured and surrounded. And eventually the city would surrender and would lose many of its privileges. Now, the very, very part of the story that's, I think, really important is that historical backdrop. Because one of the reasons it became part of that stronghold was the fact that in the 12th century, Eleanor of Aquitaine married Henry Plantagenet in 1152. Henry would later become King of England, thereby setting the stage for Protestantism in this area of France. Now, what we know of Pierre is that he was confirmed in Quebec City in 1664, indicating that he may have been here for a few years. Pierre definitely wanted to marry, as he made contracts with fille du roi Marie Lemoine in 1664, and then again with Marie Lartour in July of 1667. This was a man who definitely wanted a wife. Well, he finally got his wish. On October 6, 1667, at Quebec City, they were married. They would settle at Shalabore, which is a historic neighborhood located just outside the center of Quebec City. Founded in 1659, Shalabore was one of the oldest cities in New France. And what really makes Shalabore stand out is the unique design. Have a look at the left of your screen, the left part of your screen. You can see that it's laid out along with Bourg Royal and Petit Auvergne. It basically is a big square with spokes, kind of like a star-shaped pattern, and then you have in the middle what they call a trait carré in the square, and in that square was the church. And so what they did is they laid out all of the land in that shape. Instead of like pointing it to the river or somewhere else, they literally had the land pointing to the church, so that the church was really in the middle. Kind of a unique concept. And it has maintained that. You can see in the 1960 picture, it really does still look like that. So that's an aerial view. This is the church Saint-Charles de Borromée. Obviously, it has, grown over the years. This is a depiction in 1696. Someone had that illustration in one of the historical books. And so, it kind of shows you how long it has been here. So when you walk these streets, you really are walking with history. So definitely this is where they started their family. You can also see that they made it to the 1667 census. Pierre Guilbault and Louise Senecal, and they have 2 hectares, about an acre of land. They would go on to have 4 children. Marie would marry François Dubois and would have 8 children, 4 of whom would make it to adulthood. Joseph Olivier would marry Marianne Peugeot, and they would have 5 children, 2 of whom would make it to adulthood. Marie Dubois would be his second wife. They would have 13 children, but unfortunately only 4 made it to adulthood. Etienne would marry Françoise Roy and would have 9 children, 5 of whom made it. Françoise's mother was Marguerite Navarre, who we have profiled, and I will put the link in it. We just recently did her story. And then Elizabeth, honestly, was probably passed away before the 1681. We don't have a concrete death date, but we know that she would have not made it to the 1681 census. In that census, we have right here, we have Pierre and Louise. We have Marie, Joseph, and Etienne. There's a boy named Pierre, and I don't know who that is. And if anyone can enlighten me, that would be great. I don't think it's Elizabeth, but maybe they mistook him for a boy and called him Pierre. I don't know. All I know is I couldn't find any link to a Pierre. That would have made him born definitely 1679, so I'm not sure. And then we have 1 gun. They have 8 Vaisacons, which are 8 horned animals, probably goats or anything with a horn. And they have 2 horses, very unusual. And look at that, 30 hectares. This is about 25 to 27 acres of land. Very, very good. And now the sad, sad story. Louise would pass away sometime between the 1681 census and 1693. I tend to think it's closer to the 1693 date, as this is when Pierre attempted a marriage but did not go through with it. Remember, he was a man who definitely wanted to be married, so I have this feeling that it was closer. That would mean, in that time frame, that Louise would have been between 44 and 56 if she made it to the 1693. Again, much too early, obviously, to pass away, but she did leave us still, with that short amount of time, 61 descendants. Pierre would eventually remarry in 1697, but only 3 months later, Pierre would pass away at age 50 at the Hôtel Dieu in Quebec City. You can find out more information about Louise and Pierre in our French-Canadian Ancestors, Volume 16. And there's a biographical sketch in chapter 12. It goes from page 119 to 127. If your library has access to that, you can pick it up for sure. Or you can go on Facebook.com. They have a group there, our Free French Canadian Ancestors, a wonderful site. And if you become a member, which costs nothing, subscribe to it, like it, and you can download this particular chapter of Pierre. So I think it's very, very worthwhile to be able to check that out for yourself. And so ends our story of Louise. Although she left us much too soon, I think she did an incredible job. And the Guilbault family is still a very strong descendancy link. So I'd be anxious to hear from descendants of this particular lady. Louise Senecal and Pierre Guilbault really made a life. And although their time together was cut short, We are so grateful that they came together and were able to create a family and a lineage that sustains even today. So thank you to Louise. We so appreciate your courage and stamina and ultimately your sacrifice. Thank you so much. And thank you to my patrons, supporters, and subscribers. Couldn't do what I do without you, so I appreciate each one of you. And with that being said, I will see you on the next episode. Until then, au revoir.